Hi, in this video we're going to look at file management within Lightroom. Usually with our computers we work on files and programs and then go to a file manager such as Finder or Windows File Explorer to manage our files by moving them, putting them into folders, shifting them to different drives. But when we work in Lightroom, it's best to do all of these tasks within Lightroom itself. We can do anything we really need to with files and folders. We can create folders, we can move files, we can rename folders, so there's no need to go into Finder to do any of these things. I'll illustrate this using the photos we imported in the last video. So by selecting the last in the group, heading up to beginning, shift click selects them all. We now go into the birds folder. If we right click on that, we can create a folder inside birds folder. So we'll call this Lightroom video, and it will be created inside the birds folder and it will include the selected photos, so we'll create that. You can see the Lightroom video folder appears and begins to become populated with files. The file count in the Rotary Lakefront folder reduces as those files are moved. So we can see now those files have moved out of here. I've gone and missed a few. So if we select those, again select the first, shift click the last, we can now grab these files and move them into the Lightroom video folder. So we've created a folder with some files in it. We're going to move some more files into it. So now we've got all of those files into this folder here. So we've made a folder, we've moved files into it. Lightroom knows where those files are and we still have complete access to them. We can also move folders between drives. So to illustrate this, I will go to one of my external SSD drives that I use when I'm traveling. This was a folder of images I downloaded for a friend. By right clicking on it, we have the option of renaming it. So this was done at the lakefront. And if we now grab this folder and move it up into our birds folder here, it'll give us a warning. We can select if we don't want to see it again, and it'll now move that renamed folder from the SSD drive onto my main working drive. We can see it populating. Down here we can see the file count decreasing. When it's finished, that folder will be deleted. There, our SSD no longer has that folder in it. It is now here. I'll reverse that action by taking this folder now back to where I brought it from, and then we'll go through the exercise of moving it in Finder. So we'll drop it back into the SSD drive, move it back there. And with all these moves, Lightroom has completely kept track of the images in that folder. So we've removed that folder from birds and placed it back where it came from. If we head into Finder now and go to our SSD drive, we can copy that folder and move it in Finder into our birds folder. Now that it's there, we can delete it from the SSD. And we've basically achieved the same thing that we did in Lightroom. The problem is, when we go to our SSD drive and look for this folder, it shows up with a question mark next to it, and all the images have exclamation marks because the file can't be found. It tells me the photo is missing. And that's because by moving the folder in Finder, Lightroom has been unable to keep track of where it is. In the catalog, in the Lightroom catalog, that folder lives here, but in Finder it's moved somewhere else. We look up into birds, it doesn't exist here. We could search for it here and import it. So if we asked to synchronize folder, Lightroom would look through that birds folder looking for new photos and folders, and we could import it there. But the risk is that if all our edits are in the catalog, they will be lost. These will be seen as brand new photos. So it's far better to do this type of activity in Lightroom itself. If we go back into Finder now and locate our folder that we moved, copy it and move it back onto the SSD drive, we can now delete it again. And if we go back and look here now, Lightroom is happy. The images are where it thought they were. So the Lightroom catalog is looking in this place for them. It knows that's where they are. If we move it within Lightroom, it keeps track of them. If we move it in Finder, Lightroom loses track of them. This is a problem that I had when I first started using Lightroom years ago. I would manage my files in Windows Explorer at that stage, and then suddenly go into Lightroom and find all my files had disappeared. So it's important to understand the role of the Lightroom catalog, and that it knows where the files live in your computer. It knows what edits you've made to those files, and unless we move them within Lightroom, we run the risk of losing track of them and losing the edits we've made. So I'd encourage you to make sure that all file management you do to your image files is done within Lightroom and not done in Finder or Windows File Explorer. Hopefully you found this useful and it will avoid some headaches.